Hop in the car and we'll visit some spots where Marilyn Monroe spent some time in Palm Springs, California. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here at Traces of Hollywood. Today we'll visit some spots around Palm Springs that are associated with Marilyn Monroe. We won't be visiting hotels that claim an association with her because all the stars stayed at pretty much all the hotels back then, and we would have about a 12-hour video if we did that. So what we're going to do is a loosely chronological tour of some of the residences where she stayed, either owned or rented or vacationed. I should mention that Marilyn was essentially discovered in Palm Springs. Bruno Bernard was a photographer, and they had set up a photo session on the tennis courts at the Palm Springs Racquet Club, and Johnny Hyde, who was a VP at William Morris, the talent agency at the time, noticed the photo shoot and asked Bernard, "Who's the gorgeous dame?" And well, the rest is history, and this is a photo from that session. And that was in 1947. And later the same year, or early 1948, this property that we see here, which is located at 608 South Indian Trail, and I will be putting all the addresses in the video description so you can find these locations yourself. This was purchased by Mr. Joseph Schenck. And Schenk was a co-founder of 20th Century Pictures, which later became 20th Century Fox. And he met Marilyn around the same time that she was discovered. Her fame came pretty quickly. And he often hosted her in this beautiful home. These are photos I actually took. This home was on the market not too long ago, earlier this year in 2024. It was listed for $2.5 million. I believe it sold for $2.2 million. But I went to 2 different open houses and was able to get some of these photos. In this room, if you can't guess by looking at it, is the room that Marilyn Monroe would stay in when she would visit with Mr. Schenck. And apparently it was her favorite getaway spot at that early time in her career. She would come here and get away from Los Angeles, and this is the patio, sort of a balcony patio that overlooks the property from her room. It was a modest-sized room, even though the house itself is pretty substantial. It's a little more than 3,800 square feet in total, but it spans from one street to the next, so it lives like a resort when you're on the estate. It's pretty special. And this is the ceiling from the stairwell that you would take to get up or down to Marilyn's room. Moving on to the next location, this is 953 North Avenida, Palmas. And this is in the Movie Colony neighborhood of Palm Springs. This estate is where she came to visit, it's rumored, with Joe DiMaggio. It's said that they stayed here many times. This would be their rental property when they came to Palm Springs. Although the manager of the property is quoted as saying, "We go with the rumor," which is something that happens a lot here in Palm Springs, just because records weren't really kept back then. It's also where stars came to be anonymous and get away from the gaze of the outside world. So discretion was part of the appeal. But Sand Acre Estate is actually available to rent. You can find it online. I'll put a link in the description as well. And these are some photos from the website that shows what's behind the gate that we weren't able to see by driving by. But if you're curious, you can, again, stay here. And no, I have no affiliation with any of these places. I put the information here just for you guys, for your convenience, and for you to see some more photos if you are interested. And another massive property. You'll see here as we drive around the corner that this location is approximately half of the block in width. So again, pretty substantial. In the movie colony, there are a lot more of these large estates. This next location is not too far from the previous one, really just around the corner. And this is 1011 East L Alameda. And it's notable for belonging to Bing Crosby. And you'll see in these photos that pointing at things was a popular pastime back then. Just kidding. It is also rumored, although it's seemingly fairly substantiated, that this was the location primarily where John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe would meet up for their affair. And there were quite a few hotels around town where they also supposedly met up. But again, we're not visiting the hotels, and it is hard to substantiate a lot of these rumors. But again, it is pretty well known, pretty established in Hollywood folklore that they did meet up at Bing Crosby's property here, and another in Rancho Mirage, which is a nearby town just east of Palm Springs, about a half an hour. And supposedly John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe met up for a period of about 8 years. And in a future video, I'll show you a location in my old neighborhood in Hancock Park in Los Angeles, where they also are known to have met up as well. And it's a beautiful building, and we'll cover that in the future for sure. But here, as we round the corner, you can see, again, the size of the estates here. This is also in the movie colony, being just down the street. This next home is, again, in the movie colony, and about 2 blocks south of the last location. It's a 1941 California Spanish home. It was built by and for the silent screen star William Collier. Also fairly large, about 1/3 of an acre. It's a corner lot. I think it's pretty spectacular. I love this style of home. As you'll pick up from my videos, I prefer the Spanish style homes to a lot of the mid-century that most people tend to covet here in Palm Springs, but hey, more for me. But this home, there's not a lot of information online. So this one is based more on my personal sources from locals here. But it is believed that this is a residence that Marilyn rented on her own. I don't have the dates. We weren't able to pin that down, but it is believed to be a location that she personally rented herself for when she would come to Palm Springs. And I mentioned before, Palm Springs is a seasonal town. Winter is the high season because the weather is more pleasant then. So Hollywood stars would come either during the winter or on weekends just to get out of town. And now we're driving through the Vista Las Palmas neighborhood to what I would say is arguably the home that is most associated with Marilyn Monroe herself. And we get a little view of the mountains here. If you saw the video I made about the wildfires that were near the Elvis homes that threatened those homes, it was right up in those hills we just saw. And here we are approaching, it is 1326 Rose Avenue. And again, lots of rumor and speculation. It's said that Marilyn owned this house from 1960 to 1961. That's most likely not true. She probably rented this address, and probably for a bit longer than that time frame. It's also been said that the house wasn't built until 1961. More accurately, it was actually built in 1926, but it was renovated in 1961 and 1962 over that year to the style that we see today, and it's remained basically the same. And this house sold in 2020 for $1.5 million, a little more. And this house is also available as a rental, so you can stay there. So don't worry, I'm not actually driving this quickly. I'm speeding the video up 2 times actual speed just to show you in comparison how close it is to another famous residence. And I'm sure most of you will recognize this right away. That's right, it's the honeymoon hideaway where Elvis and Priscilla Presley spent their honeymoon after getting married in Las Vegas. And I did a video about this home and the other Elvis locations in Palm Springs, so you can check those out. And of course, it wouldn't be a Marilyn Monroe video in Palm Springs if I didn't show you the famous Forever Marilyn statue in front of the Palm Springs Art Museum. And they will be relocating the statue into the nearby park here soon. So that's it for this video. We'll do some more Maryland spots in the future. But if you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It will help me grow the channel and I can keep doing more videos like this for you all. Thanks a lot. See you next time.